I'm a gifted person whose words become reality. All I have to do is say, God says I can fly. And even without wings, I can lift right into the air. And if I say, God says I can turn invisible, I'll disappear in an instant. But when I was transported to the apocalypse, I possessed the body of Su Yan, who had been trapped for 3 months and had already starved to death. I immediately opened my mouth and said, God says, I need a bowl of white rice. But the next second, absolutely nothing happened. That's when I realized this body has no spiritual power. Just as I was wondering how to get out of this jam, I suddenly heard banging on the door. A cabinet and a table were blocking the door completely. I couldn't even look through the peephole, but whoever was out there kept knocking, which let me know it was a person and not a zombie. I leaned against the cabinet and yelled, someone's in here. Although I yelled with all my might, my voice wasn't very loud. Luckily, the people outside still heard me. Then, I heard an excited voice. With the help of Pei Yan and her group, I was finally rescued and got into the backseat of their SUV. I looked at Pei Yan in the passenger seat. She was toying with a light blue crystal in her hand. I raised an eyebrow slightly and asked, what's that you've got there? Pei Yan froze for a second, then gave a short reply. A crystal core. Seeing that I hadn't been outside for 3 months, Pei Yan explained that it's something from a zombie's brain. Once you remove the crystal core, the zombie dies for good. The silent Ji Feng couldn't help but chime in. These crystal cores are also useful for us gifted people. Oh, right, you a gifted person? From the original host's memories, I understood what a gifted person was, so I nodded. Yeah, I am. What's your ability? Ji Feng seemed a little surprised. I thought for a moment and said, I can do a little bit of everything, I guess. Ji Feng glanced at me in the rearview mirror, looking completely speechless. You really expect me to believe that? I ignored him, simply looking at Pei Yan. Can I have that crystal core? I'll give it back to you later. Pei Yan handed me the crystal core. At the same time, she warned, for us gifted people, although we can absorb the energy from crystal cores, they're also mixed with a virus. If you're going to absorb it, you have to get rid of the virus inside first. Otherwise, you'll. But before she could finish, she saw that the crystal core in my hand had already turned into a gray stone. Pei Yan was instantly alarmed. Are you okay? I'm fine. After absorbing the spiritual energy, I immediately felt some of my strength return. I held out my palm. Just as Pei Yan was looking confused, I said softly, God says, I have a cream bun. Pei Yan frowned, thinking I had lost my mind. She was just about to tell Ji Feng to stop the car, but in the next second, cream bun actually appeared in my palm. The SUV screeched to a halt. My body lurched forward. Luckily, I blocked my forehead with my hand. The bun got squished in my grip, and the cream squeezed right out. I looked at Ji Feng, annoyed, as he said with a smile, Little sister, where did you get this bread? Are you a space-type ability user? I ignored him and kept my head down, continuing to eat my bread. Pei Yan, however, was thinking about what had just happened. You just absorbed the energy from the crystal core. Did you convert it? Besides the spiritual energy in that crystal core, there were indeed a lot of impurities. But I don't understand anything about converting. I just absorbed the spiritual energy, that's all. You converted it that fast? How do you convert it? Why are you so fast? What's there to convert? Don't you just absorb what you need? I looked up at Pei Yan. Just then, the car came to a sudden stop. Zombies nearby started to approach. Pei Yan didn't press the matter further. We should get going first. We can talk when we get somewhere safe. The SUV started moving again. I had recovered some of my strength from absorbing the crystal core. I also learned about the state of the apocalypse from Pei Yan. It has been 3 months since the end of the world. Social order has completely collapsed. They are preparing to head to City G. Survivor base has been established there. After understanding the situation, I asked, what about Brother Pei? I went back home first. I didn't see Dad or Auntie. As for Brother Pei, I haven't been to his school yet. The two of them fell silent. Ji Feng quickly spoke up. Brother Pei, the Linda shopping mall is up ahead. Should we go? Let's get closer and have Jabai take a look. The two SUVs came to a stop. I was told to wait until they had cleared the nearby zombies before getting out of the car. Of course I wouldn't get out. I don't have much strength right now. I'm not going to get out and drag them down. There weren't too many zombies on the street. After they finished clearing them out, I saw them take the crystal cores from the zombies' heads. My eyes instantly lit up. I quickly got out of the car. Before I could even get over there, I saw that man who, even in the apocalypse, was wearing a white shirt, nod at Pei Yan. It should be safe around here. As for inside the mall, it's a bit too far. I'll have to go inside to get a feel for it. Pei Yan was wiping the crystal cores with a clean towel. Seeing me approach, he freed one hand and waved me over. Then, he introduced the members to me. Shen Jibai, you've met him before, remember? Jibai, this is my sister, Su Yan. Shen Jibai glanced at me and gave a slight nod. He didn't say anything else. He has always been a man of few words. Pei Yan didn't say much either, and called the other two over to introduce them. One was named Shu Ninan, also a childhood friend of Pei Yan's. The other was Su Qin's, who is Shu Ninan's fiancé. Pei Yan's ability is the strongest. He's a fire-type ability user. The cheerful and very talkative Ji Feng is a wind-type ability user. The taciturn Shen Jibai is a psychic-type ability user. The gentle-looking Shu Ninan is a space-type ability user, while the arrogant Su Qin's, who won't even look at me properly, is a water-type ability user. Besides Pei Yan and Shen Ji, who are level 2 ability users. Everyone else is still at level 1. After Pei Yan and the others finished digging out the zombie crystal cores, the group headed inside the mall. Even though they were still 50 or 60 meters away, they could still see zombies walking stiffly through the broken glass windows. It's worth noting that human abilities can be upgraded, and zombies can also evolve. Once inside the mall, just as expected, there were a lot of zombies gathered inside. There were dozens of them as far as the eye could see. However, Pei Yan and the others weren't worried about these zombies on the upper floors. These zombies moved slowly, so they could eventually clear them all out by taking their time. Their real target was the large supermarket in the basement. Unless the base had already sent people over, it was basically impossible for it to have been cleared out. Everyone turned to look at Shen Jibai at the same time. He closed his eyes slightly, and his psychic ability immediately spread throughout the first floor. Before long, Shen Ji's handsome face gradually turned pale, and fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Only then did he open his eyes. His expression was grim. All I can say is that there are a lot of zombies. But with our current abilities, he said, shaking his head. He didn't finish his sentence. Pei Yan wasn't surprised by this answer. In fact, they had prepared for this before they came. Ji Feng pointed to the 4th floor. I remember there's a food court on the 4th floor. Should we go up and take a look? I don't think so. The food in the food court, most of it is ingredients that don't last long. Shu Ninan rejected the proposal. There are still quite a few zombies inside. Let's keep it quiet. We'll just look for clothes on the 1st floor. We still need to find some safe, remote places to kill zombies. We need to save up more gold rings to upgrade our abilities. Otherwise, the next time we find a place with supplies, we'll have to give up again. No one objected to what Pei Yan said, so everyone fell silent. They tried to stay far away from the zombies, walking without making a sound. If they saw any suitable clothes, they had Shu Ninan, the space ability user, collect them into her space. Half an hour later, after they finished looking for clothes, they quietly retreated. I hadn't gone inside at all. Ji Feng was also waiting outside, acting as a lookout. Once we were back in the car, I looked at Pei Yan, who had moved to the driver's seat. Are we just leaving like this? We have no choice, we're not strong enough. If you gave me some more crystal cores, maybe I could solve the problem. Ji Feng, in the passenger seat, laughed and turned around. Little sis, you're not being very subtle, are you? If you want crystal cores, just say so. You don't have to use this as an excuse. You guys can invest in me. My ability is really powerful. Space ability? Ji Feng said dismissively. He waved his hand. Brother Shen is also a space type. I stopped talking. Pei Yan was driving the car, and glanced at me in the rearview mirror. If you want crystal cores, you have to contribute to the team. In the apocalypse, people with no value don't survive. Don't you understand what an investment is? I said, crossing my arms. Pei Yan held the steering wheel with one hand and took out a few crystal cores from his pocket with the other. Thrown back, I caught it perfectly. It's the people without value who can't survive. But you have connections. I just chuckled. Pei Yan, this stepbrother of mine, is actually not bad. Even though we have different parents, he still came looking for me first. But unfortunately, he was too late. The original owner was long gone. I clenched the crystal core. In an instant, I absorbed all of the crystal cores. Ji Feng was watching from the side. He just blurted out a swear word. He looked again, and still thought it was ridiculous. He looked at me with a complicated expression. Little sister, you're really amazing. I glanced at him, but didn't say anything. After absorbing a few more crystal cores, my energy recovered quite a bit. Following Shen Zibai's directions, everyone arrived at a villa area just as it was getting dark. The villa for our temporary stay looked like it had been vacant for a long time. Inside, many things were in disarray. The floor was also covered in a thick layer of dust. Everyone checked the villa over. After confirming there was no danger, Pei Yan told everyone to find their own rooms. The rooms need to be cleaned by yourselves. Miss Su, please prepare some water. I was too lazy to go up to the second floor. So I used my ability. God said, let this be a clean and tidy room. The next second, the room was completely transformed, as if it had just been thoroughly cleaned. Pei Yan came over with a bedsheet and saw my room. He froze for a moment. How's your room so clean? Didn't I tell you? I know a little bit of everything. There's even an ability for cleaning rooms? I guess I'm still too inexperienced. In that case, little sister, I'll leave my room to you then. Since you gave me those crystal cores this afternoon, sure. The room Pei Yan chose was a small one on the first floor. I took one look and cast my spell. God said, let this be a clean room. The next moment, everything in the entire room became exceptionally tidy. Even the tissue that had fallen on the floor became spotless. Pei Yan looked at me with a hint of pleasant surprise. Su Yan, this ability of yours is amazing. He then pulled out a few more crystal cores from his pocket and placed them in my hand. These crystal cores are all for you. After dinner, I'll go kill some more zombies. Seeing the crystal cores, my eyes instantly lit up. I mimicked what the original owner had once seen in some short videos and purposely put on a cute voice. Thank you, big brother. Just talk normally. Just as we were talking, there was a sudden knock on the door. Everyone went to the living room, and all eyes fell on Shen Jibai. He gently closed his eyes. A moment later, he opened them again and his thin lips slowly parted. 2 men and 2 women. I don't sense any danger. Hearing Shen Zibai's words, Ji Feng looked to Pei Yan and asked, Brother Pei, should we open the door? Go ahead. Ji Feng walked over and opened the door. Outside, just as Shen Jibai had said, stood 2 men and 2 women. They didn't look very old. Their eyes held a sort of clear-eyed foolishness. When they saw Ji Feng open the door, a look of happy surprise immediately appeared on their faces. Outside the gate, I saw 2 SUVs. I had a hunch someone was in here. I didn't expect to be right. Ji Feng closed the door again and retreated to Pei Yan's side. He stood beside him, sizing them up. Who are you people? What do you want? Hello, we're students from the nearby Polytechnic University. After the apocalypse started, we've been struggling to survive at the school, waiting for rescue. We only managed to escape a short while ago. During that time, we ran into some people with flight abilities. And that's how we learned about the current state of the world. That's right. On our way here, apart from a few people with flight abilities, we haven't seen a single other person. If it weren't for them, we would have started to suspect that we were the only people left in the world. Pei Yan raised an eyebrow slightly. You're from the Polytechnic University? Then do you know Brother Pei? Brother Pei? Of course I know him. He's a legend at our school, but he probably doesn't know who I am. After chatting for a little while longer and learning each other's names, everyone started to warm up to each other. When they learned we were heading to the giant stone base, Zhou Qingfeng and his group asked if they could come along. I have dual abilities, plant control and speed. Wei Liang has spatial abilities. We have our own supplies, so we won't be a drain on yours. We just hope we can travel to G City together and watch each other's backs when we can. Seeing Pei Yan frown slightly, as if he didn't want to bring them along, Zhou Qingfeng quickly laid out their value. Seeing that all 4 of them had abilities and wouldn't be using up their supplies, Pei Yan agreed to travel to the base together. After everyone got acquainted, Shen Niansheng took some rice and eggs out of his dimensional space. Let's just have egg fried rice tonight, he said, looking at me. I heard that you're a food blogger. You cook. I can't cook. Shen Niansheng looked at me skeptically. I added, I'm only in charge of eating and reviewing. Shu Ninan looked a little exasperated and was about to start cooking himself. Just then, Sha Qianqin, who had been eating a self-eating meal, walked over. I can cook. Let me help you. Shu Ninan seemed a bit embarrassed. I'm actually a pretty good cook. Just consider it my way of thanking you for letting us tag along. Shu Ninan couldn't really refuse. Alright then, thank you for the help. Sha Qianqin took the rice from Shu Ninan's hands and skillfully washed it. Then placed it on a makeshift stove to steam. The rice is steaming. We can fry it once it's cooked. Thanks. Don't mention it. Sha Weilang's eyes were bright as she stared intently at Shu Ninan. I don't think I caught your name. Shu Ninan. Just as Sha Weiliang was about to say something else, Su Chintz, who was standing nearby, couldn't help but cut in. Ninan, come over here a second. I need to talk to you. Then she turned to Sha Weiliang with an apologetic look. Miss Sha, I'm sorry. Our Ninan doesn't know how to cook. Sorry to have troubled you with this. Hearing this, Shu Ninan furrowed his brow slightly. Sha Weiliang shook her head and asked with a blink of her eyes, so, are you and Ninan a couple, Chintz? Yes, we're fiancés. Oh, you two seem so close. After Sha Weiliang said this, she walked over to the dining table and sat down. She continued eating, her gaze lowered, making it impossible to tell what she was thinking. Sha Weilang's cooking was indeed excellent. Simple plate of egg fried rice made Pei Yan and his group show satisfied expressions on their faces. After the meal, everyone took out a map and planned several routes to the base in City G. The exact route would depend on the situation. They had to leave this place as soon as possible. Although the disaster in City H wasn't as severe as in other cities, it was still prone to flooding. It just wasn't serious yet, but with natural disasters, you could never be sure. So, it was safer to leave as soon as possible. After arranging the night watch, I got some clean clothes from Shu Ninan and went into the bathroom to take a shower. In the middle of the night, while I was half asleep, I suddenly heard someone shouting and opened my eyes. The lack of sleep made me irritable. With my hair a mess, I opened the door. A candle was lit in the living room, and a few people had already been woken up. What's going on? Just as I asked, I heard a strange sound. What is that noise? Shen Jibai hurried down from the second floor, his voice urgent. It's dangerous. I can sense a lot of zombies. And it seems like these zombies are running away. Just as he finished speaking, a loud thunderclap boomed across the sky, and lightning seemed to tear it apart. Huge raindrops began to fall instantly. The zombies are all running away. Jifeng asked anxiously, "Hey, what do we do now?" "We're leaving too. Pack up and alert the others. Let's go, now." The rain poured down. In just moments, a lot of water had already pooled on the ground. Shen Jibai sat in the backseat, watching the scene through the car window with a slight frown. It must be a natural disaster. Look, even the rats are running out. Because City H hadn't suffered disasters like earthquakes, the roads were still relatively clear. Along the way, they could see many other vehicles also trying to escape. But all this commotion didn't attract the zombies. It seemed that compared to food, survival was more important. Su Chintz looked out the window, suddenly pointing into the distance and saying, "Look, it's someone with a flight ability." A rare look of admiration appeared on Su Chintz's face. Being able to fly is so cool. I glanced over and gave a yawn. What's the big deal? You say that as if you're the one with flight powers. It's not that hard. I don't have a flight ability. But I can fly. Su Chintz rolled her eyes. TCH, you don't even think before you brag. Boosted by Shen Zibai's psychic abilities, the two SUVs sped towards City G. The rain grew heavier and heavier, and soon the floodwaters were rising steadily. The vehicles were already struggling to move forward. Jifeng stepped on the gas. It felt it getting more and more difficult. We can't go on like this. Not only is the rain heavy, but the water on the ground is getting deep too. If we keep driving, the car's going to stall. The headlights are barely piercing the curtain of rain. But I can't see anything up ahead. It's pitch black. Pei Yan rolled the window down a crack and was immediately hit by the roar of the downpour. And the howling wind, rain immediately started pouring in through the opening. Jibai, is there anywhere around here we can take cover? We can't make it to G City base for now. He's been using his psychic abilities the entire way to guide us. By now, Shen Jibai had used up too much of his power, and his face was pale. Hearing Pei Yan's words, he used his ability again. After a moment of sensing, he spoke, his face growing paler. There's a place we can stay for a bit to the southeast. Ji Feng didn't hesitate. He immediately flicked on the high beams and drove towards the southeast. After driving for about 10 minutes, they finally saw the place Shen Jibai was talking about. By then, the water had already risen to their calves, and the car's engine died on its own. Ji Feng called to the others, turning on a flashlight as he prepared to get out. I glanced at the murky floodwater, then said with a deadpan expression, "God says I can fly, so I won't get wet in the rain." Su Chintz, who was just about to get out, saw this and was instantly speechless. "Hey, Su Yan, are you out of your mind? Do you see the situation we're in? And you're spouting all this mystical nonsense." But just as he was about to mock her further, Su Chintz's eyes went wide in the next second. They watched as my feet slowly lifted off the ground, and I floated out from inside the car. The beam from the flashlight piercing the rain made the scene look especially eerie. But more importantly, there was the pouring rain, and it wasn't touching me at all. You. Floating outside the car, I looked down at Ji Feng, who was frozen in place with his mouth hanging open. "What are you gaping at? Lead the way." Yes, of course. Ji Feng immediately answered respectfully. After answering, he froze up himself. Wait, why was I being so subservient? Why was I just instinctively trying to suck up to her? No, that's not the point. The point is, why does she want me to lead the way? Ji Feng was annoyed, but he still acted quickly. He held out his hand obsequiously and said, "This way." Wait, no, fly this way. Ji Feng regretted it as soon as he said it. He always felt that whenever he met Brother Pei's sister's eyes, He couldn't help but feel his courage fail him. The others stared at Ji Feng and me, hovering in the air. They were completely stunned. They'd never even heard of an ability user who could fly. She could fly without wings? And why wasn't the rain touching her? Is this some kind of special treatment? The building Shen Jibai mentioned was a private, 3-story house. The first floor looked like it was a small convenience store, with toppled shelves everywhere. The food and drinks had been basically cleared out, with only some daily necessities left behind. Everyone pulled the rolling shutter door down before heading up to the second floor together. The moment I landed, several crystal cores were held out in front of my face. I looked at Pei Yan, puzzled. What's this for? I looked at Pei Yan with confusion. What do you mean? Clean this place up a bit. Brother Pei, clean what up? I paid them no mind. After I took the crystal core and finished absorbing it, I was in a pretty good mood. I felt this place was clean and tidy. By the light of the flashlight, everyone could clearly see that all the furniture here was sparkling clean, and even the floor seemed as if it had just been washed. The white tiles were gleaming. What on earth is Su Yenshi's power? Didn't I tell you? I can do a little bit of everything. I think you mean a lot of everything. Su Jinsei bit her lip. But what kind of power is this? It lets you fly and it cleans? I heard from Ji Feng that you also have a spatial ability. That makes it a 3, 4, or even 5 type ability. Everyone else was curious about this too, so they all stared at me. My expression remained nonchalant, as I sat on the sofa and said in a calm, unhurried voice. I'm probably a user with thousands, maybe tens of thousands of abilities. Now that I've recovered a good deal of my spiritual power, I have completely risen. From now on, I no longer have to care about what anyone else thinks. But the others didn't seem to notice my attitude had changed. After all, in their eyes, I've always seemed this cocky. When have they ever seen me care what they think? There weren't many rooms on the second floor. Only 3 rooms. Luckily, there were 2 more on the third floor. One of them was a large master bedroom. There weren't enough rooms. Naturally, that meant we'd have to share. But how could the new and improved me be willing to do that? I cleaned this house, so there's no problem with me taking the master bedroom for myself, right? Everyone looked at Pei Yan. After all, while it's true I cleaned the house, he was the one who provided the crystal core. Before Pei Yan could say a word, it was Ji Yu Tiancheng, who was usually not much of a talker, who was the first to agree. I see no problem with that. Shen Niansheng glanced at his friend. How could he not know why Ji Yu Tiancheng agreed? For other people, a room cleaning ability might seem pretty useless. But for a die-hard germaphobe like Ji Yu Tiancheng, it was a godsend, and just like that, Ji Yu Tiancheng, who always acted so high and mighty, had actually learned how to suck up to someone. Ji Feng saw this and had no objections. Seeing that no one else objected, Pei Yan nodded and opened a room door. Seeing the matter was settled, Su Jinsei complained, there are 10 of us in total. 4 girls, and she gets a room all to herself? Doesn't that mean the 3 of us girls have to squeeze into one room? I don't agree. What about you two? Sha Weiliang and Zhao Xinxin didn't answer. They were just tagging along with Pei Yan's group anyway. Ji Yu Tiancheng found this place with his power. I cleaned the rooms, and Pei Yan provided the crystal core. What right did they have to vote? I crossed my arms, my voice flat. You don't agree? Then let's settle it with a vote. If we vote, they'll obviously all side with you. There are 6 of them. Besides Shu Ninan, who hasn't taken a side. Everyone else already agreed. Then stop whining. Su Jinsei still wanted to argue, but then her eyes met my dark, icy gaze. She was instantly startled, feeling as if her entire body had been plunged into an ice cave. She shivered from the cold. How could this be? How could a person's gaze be so terrifying? The confident momentum she had been building up, and the words she had prepared, came out completely different. Squeeze then, I never said you couldn't. You're certainly being loud about it. Now that's what I call a cowardly response. I'm very satisfied that she knows her place. I relaxed my intense demeanor and took the opportunity to boss her around. Go to my room and run the water for me. I'm going to take a bath. Everyone else looked at me in shock, then turned to look at Su Jinsei. Even though Sha Weiliang and the others had known her for less than a day, they all knew Su Jinsei was usually the typical pampered rich girl, always ordering people around. It was already unbelievable that she had just backed down. They didn't expect me to actually push my luck even further. If we started fighting, would they try to pull Su Jinsei away first? As for me, they wouldn't dare. Su Jinsei, who everyone thought would fight back, still had a powerful presence. Her voice was still loud. Fine, I'll run it. But her words were still spineless. Su Jinsei stormed up to the 3rd floor. Her steps were a bit rushed, as if she were fleeing in defeat. Shen Nianshan looked at me with a hint of admiration in his eyes. Sometimes, even he couldn't handle Su Jinsei's pampered princess tantrums. He never thought that I could actually subdue her. After my bath, I went down to the 2nd floor. The others had also finished getting settled and were preparing to eat. Sha Weilang's group of 4 was still separate from them. Because of the heavy rain, the temperature had dropped. So for the evening, we decided to have self-heating hot pot. I sat on a single armchair. Smelling the self-heating hot pot in my hands, my eyes lit up. The first bite didn't disappoint my expectations. It was spicy, savory, and fragrant. The aroma was incredible. Even though it was mostly just vegetables, it was still delicious. The others were also eating with great relish. After all, something as luxurious as a self-heating hot pot was something they were usually reluctant to eat. Just getting enough to eat was considered a good day. I was so excited as I ate, I wished I could have another bowl right away. But thinking about the spiritual energy inside my body, I restrained myself. I should kill some zombies first. Then I'll be able to eat hot pot every day. After I finished eating, Pei Yan looked at my leftover hot pot broth. He frowned slightly. That's all valuable oil and nutrients. He was implying that I should finish it. Hot pot broth, something people wouldn't have given a second glance before the apocalypse, was now a rare delicacy. Even wealthy people like Pei Yan and Su Jinsei finished every last drop. This was indeed a bit of a waste. I looked at the broth with a bit of disgust and said, I don't want to eat it. Pei Yan disapproved. Just as he was about to persuade me again, a voice piped up from the side. If she's not going to eat it, why don't I finish it for her? Everyone immediately stared at Su Jinsei in shock. Su Jinsei looked a little embarrassed. I just think it's a waste. This is the apocalypse, after all. We should cherish every bit of food. If you want to eat it, then go ahead. She took my leftover broth and immediately tilted her head back to drink it down. So this is the kind of pampered rich girl you are. I scooted away from her in disgust. No wonder you can't compete with the female lead. Someone else's leftover hot pot broth is enough to make you lose all self-control. How pathetic. Su Jinsei couldn't care less about what others thought. After the apocalypse, she could barely get enough to eat, and her stomach was completely empty of anything greasy. She was too hungry to sleep every day, especially after using her powers. The energy drained even faster. So what if she ate leftover hot pot broth? If zombies weren't inedible, if she got hungry enough, she'd even cough. It's better to just starve. After dinner, everyone's spirits lifted. They started discussing what to do next. Everyone immediately looked at Jiyu Tiancheng. After all, he had a psychic ability. Even things he said based on intuition turned out to be pretty reliable. Jiyu Tiancheng didn't use his power again. He had already exhausted his powers for the day and now felt weak all over. His head was spinning. It would take a whole night for him to recover. Pei Yan pondered for a moment and said, let's head towards East City first. There shouldn't be any flooding there. Besides, going to East City won't affect our trip to the GC base. Going to East City is fine. Ji Feng was the first to agree. But how we get there is a problem. Our car is definitely useless now. If we wait for the water to recede, who knows how long that will take. Our supplies won't last that long either. Pei Yan frowned slightly. Then let's focus on searching for kayaks these next few days. We still need to leave H City as soon as possible. Floods are often accompanied by all sorts of bacteria and viruses. Listening to them talk, Sha Weiliang couldn't help but interject softly. Actually, before she could finish her sentence, someone else spoke at almost the same time, but my louder voice immediately drowned her out. Why bother with kayaks? You all just come up with more crystal cores. I can get them for us. Jiyu Tiancheng looked at me, surprised. Your ability can conjure lifeboats out of thin air? I leaned back on the sofa with my arms crossed. My gaze was indifferent. Why do you care? Do you want to pool your cores or not? If we can get lifeboats. Of course they did. They couldn't be trapped here. If they ran out of crystal cores, they could always kill more zombies. But if they lost their lives, that would truly be the end. The other 9 people discussed it for a moment. There were 10 of them in total. An ordinary-sized lifeboat could fit 5 people if they squeezed in. But for more room, everyone agreed it was better not to be so crowded. After tallying the crystal cores everyone was willing to contribute, Pei Yan made the decision. 5 cores per person, in exchange for 3 lifeboats. I agreed readily. After quickly absorbing the 45 crystal cores, I sat on the sofa without moving, only my lips moved. God said, let there be 3 lifeboats before me. As someone watched, they saw a ripple of energy in the living room, and sure enough, 3 lifeboats appeared out of thin air. This, Sha Weiliang looked at me in shock. If those lifeboats weren't stored in a spatial dimension, then what kind of ability is this? Her words become reality. Sha Weiliang looked at the person who spoke. She saw Ji Feng excitedly squatting down beside me. Sis, no, wait, I've realized that describing your ability as, your words become reality, is the most fitting description. Whatever you say, happens. Then, can you also make the food I like appear? I want a serving of braised pork with rice. Is this enough? The others couldn't bear to look at Ji Feng's bootlicking, but deep down, they were a tiny bit envious. Rice and braised pork. Who wouldn't want some? I raised an eyebrow slightly. I didn't expect these people's pockets to still have so many crystal cores. Too bad we're so familiar with each other. Wouldn't be right to just rob them. I took the crystal cores. Alright, my brow relaxed. I didn't store the crystal cores, I absorbed them directly. Compared to Ji Tiancheng, who had just started absorbing and hadn't even finished a single core. My speed was simply astonishing. I spoke the words. Let there be a bowl of steaming hot rice and a plate of braised pork before me. The next second, on the coffee table in front of me, the rice and braised pork appeared, just as I'd said. And it was even steaming hot. The rich aroma of the braised pork drifted over. The sound of gulping was exceptionally loud. Ji Feng, unable to hold back any longer, lunged for the rice. Feeling the pack of wolf-like gazes on him, he silently poured the rice onto his plate. Then he found a corner and quickly shoveled it down. The fat and sugar of the meat were perfectly combined, creating a flavor where sweet and salty intertwined, making Ji Feng's eyes narrow with pleasure as he ate. Now this is living. From this day on, it's either me or the zombies. Either the zombies die, or he lives. The others smelled the fragrant meat, and their just-filled stomachs instantly felt hungry again. But thinking about their own crystal core supply, they gave up on the idea. Compared to filling their bellies, it was better to upgrade their abilities. Getting stronger to survive in this apocalypse was more important. Once they became powerful, would they have to worry about supplies? After weighing their options, the group looked at Ji Feng and suppressed their desires. Pei Yan looked at me with a complicated expression. Sensing his gaze, I immediately made my stance clear. Even if you are my so-called brother, don't even think about it. If you want to eat, you have to pay with crystal cores. Pei Yan looked a bit helpless. It wasn't that he was particularly craving the food. Your ability is really, what you say goes, isn't it? Whatever you say just appears. You could say that. I looked at my own skinny arms and legs, thinking I really needed to get some nourishment. The original owner of this body was 163 centimeters tall, but weighed only 40 kilograms, completely skin and bones. I took one look at that face and didn't want to look a second time. Su Jinsei, who was squatting next to me finishing off the hot pot broth, heard this and immediately perked up. What you say goes. Then doesn't that mean if you say the apocalypse is over, the apocalypse will end? Theoretically, yes. Shu Ning'an pressed on, but it requires enough energy. I pointed to Ji Feng eating in the corner. Like his meal, if he wanted a Manchu Han imperial feast, his few crystal cores would obviously not be enough. Su Jinsei lowered her head, disappointed. Then it's basically impossible. After all, the energy needed to end the apocalypse. To do that, I'd have to collect every zombie crystal core in the world. But it doesn't have to be that extreme. Pei Yan's dark eyes lit up a little as he stared at me. Although it's probably impossible to end the apocalypse, the energy to create a vaccine should still be achievable. This gave everyone a new idea. Zhao Xinxin said excitedly, that's right. As long as we develop a vaccine for the zombie virus, at least the survivors won't have to be afraid of getting infected anymore, and the number of zombies won't increase. Humanity can still be saved. Suddenly, everyone looked at me, their eyes shining. Pei Yan concluded, I propose that from now on, she doesn't go on any dangerous missions. We'll prioritize her protection. Agreed? As soon as he said that, the people who had just been treating me like a savior immediately avoided Pei Yan's gaze. Prioritizing my protection was fine, as long as they weren't in danger themselves. It's every man for himself, and the devil take the hindmost. They weren't the kind of soldiers who sacrifice themselves for others, the kind who could sacrifice themselves for the greater good. I snorted coldly, just worry about protecting yourselves. I don't need your protection. Likewise, I won't be protecting you. And so, the matter of prioritizing my protection was just dropped. I didn't think much of it either. Human nature is selfish, although I had spent a few days with Pei Yan and his group, and it seemed like we were getting along well, when trouble really hit. Besides Pei Yan, I really wouldn't be sure about saving them. Just as they were thinking, whether to save someone is something that needs to be weighed. At night, aside from the ghostly wails of the zombies, I actually rested pretty well. After a night of torrential rain, the downpour on the second day hadn't let up. After everyone had breakfast, they looked out from the second floor window. The water level had risen quite a bit. Outside, other than the zombies walking in the rain, there wasn't a single other person in sight. Watching this, Zhou Qingfeng couldn't help but ask, hey, you guys think these zombies could be drowned? No. Before anyone else could answer, Sha Weilang's firm voice cut in. Everyone's gaze immediately turned to her. Zhou Qingfeng quickly asked, Qianqin, how do you know they can't? It's a conclusion from observation, Sha Weiliang answered after a slight pause. Have you all forgotten? Even if you cut the heads off these zombies, their heads can still survive. Even without a body, a zombie that's just a head is barely a threat. But you can't ignore the fact that it's still alive. Shu Ninan looked at Sha Weiliang with a hint of admiration. So what you're saying is, as long as the zombie's head, or rather, its crystal core, isn't damaged, then strictly speaking, it's still alive? Because, in a sense, zombies don't age, don't die, and can even continuously level up. The usually quiet Yang Xiang laughed. Isn't that just immortality? If the first emperor knew this is what immortality was like, he wouldn't have been so obsessed with it. If the zombie virus didn't cause our bodies to mutate and allowed us to keep our minds, Ji Feng let his imagination run wild, then we'd probably be conquering the stars by now, right? That would be so cool to think about. Fighting aliens sounds way better than fighting zombies. Besides, aliens aren't our kind either. Ji Yu Tiancheng had already recovered by today. He's sitting on the living room sofa right now. Usually, he only wears a white shirt. Today, because it got colder, he's wearing a thin, black trench coat. He has his legs crossed, sipping hot water from his cup. He glanced at the rain outside and said, "This rain will probably last a week. We can't stay here that long, Ah Yan. What do you think?" Yesterday, they calculated that their supplies are just enough to last for a week. But we can't count on that being exact. We definitely can't go out today. The rain is too heavy. Which day will the rain let up a bit? Ji Yu Tiancheng had no choice but to use his ability. He felt out the premonitions for traveling on the coming days one by one, and finally said, "We can leave the day after tomorrow, but there will probably be some trouble." He couldn't sense anything further than that. After all, his ability is only at level 2. I heard that level 3 is the turning point for abilities, compared to levels 1 and 2. The ability undergoes a qualitative change. It looks like I have to get to level 3 as soon as possible. Pei Yan made the final decision. Then we'll set out the day after tomorrow. No objections, right? Of course, no one had any objections. It was pouring rain outside, so it wasn't a good time to go look for supplies. So, Pei Yan took Ji Feng and Shu Ninan to check out the first floor. It was too late last night. This first floor is a small shop. There were still some products hanging on the walls. They had to go see if there was anything useful. Water was already seeping in through the crack under the door. Some of the shelves that had fallen over were floating in the water. Outside, the sound of the rain was still pattering. Hitting the roller shutter door, the noise was even louder. On top of that, it was accompanied by the guttural roars of the zombies. The beam of the flashlight shone downstairs, a cold wind blew, and the darkness was truly unsettling. The water level on the first floor was too high, so Pei Yan and the others simply used the lifeboat to go check the supplies. The things hanging on the walls were almost useless: school bags, straw hats, water bottles, and other daily necessities. Ji Feng said in pleasant surprise, "I found raincoats and water bottles here. Let's take the straw hats and raincoats. It's quite a long way to East City. If we catch a cold from the rain, our medicine reserves aren't quite enough." Shu Ninan nodded and waved her hand, storing all these items in her space. "My space is almost full. I need to upgrade it as soon as possible. For a level 1 space-type ability user, the storage space is really small. It's only 5 cubic meters, so it doesn't really hold much. Instead, it's piled high with daily necessities like clothes, pots, and bowls. Let's wait until the day after tomorrow." The group continued to hole up in this 3-story house. Nothing dangerous happened. Early in the morning on the day after tomorrow, they looked out the window. Sure enough, the rain had lessened, turning into a light drizzle. Pei Yan gave the 4 raincoats he had collected to me and the others. I was a bit disgusted by it, but I thought about saving my spiritual energy. I still needed a lot of spiritual energy myself, so I accepted it. The wrinkly and ugly raincoat. The roller shutter door that had been closed for days was finally opened. 3 lifeboats slowly drifted out. Outside, some more zombies were floating on the water's surface, looking a lot like they were just lying flat. As soon as we came out, a fresh scent of humans immediately made them. The grayish-white eyes seemed to have come to life, even more swollen from being soaked in water. The rotting corpse stood up. The bugs and worms on it had long since been washed off and were floating on the water's surface. Its grayish-white, eyeless sockets looked as if they could see people. It charged toward them, bearing its fangs and claws, but because of the water's resistance and the fact that it was daytime, their speed wasn't fast at all. In fact, it was very slow. My eyes lit up. Just as I was about to open my mouth, I heard Pei Yan say, "Kill these zombies. Every little bit helps. Besides, lone zombies are a much better bargain." Before Pei Yan had even finished speaking, Ji Feng, Zhou Qingfeng, and the others all attacked at once. They had said before that when it came to zombie crystal cores, whoever gets a kill gets the core. Now that there were lone zombies that were easy to kill, they obviously weren't going to pass up the chance. The 6 zombies were taken out one by one with headshots from their abilities before they even got close. Holding 2 crystal cores, Ji Feng calculated to himself that he had to kill a lot more zombies whenever he saw them. This way, his rice and braised pork would be guaranteed. Hey, he had never been so excited to see zombies before. The thought alone was kind of thrilling. As the lifeboat continued to drift towards East City, they kept encountering more zombies like the ones from before. Although the sudden downpour restricted humans, it also restricted the zombies. And humans still had lifeboats, which the zombies didn't. The advantage was on our side this time. I wanted to say something, but I realized that if I tried to compete by shouting, I wouldn't be as fast as them just attacking directly. So, my spirit proclaimed, I have a sharp sword to slay zombies. The others looked at me, and immediately started steering the lifeboat. Whenever I saw a zombie, I thrust my sword at its head, and then with a flick of my wrist, the beautiful longsword would flick out the crystal core. The movement was so clean and effortless it created a false impression. At these zombies, with their bodies softened by the water, were as weak as watermelons. Ji Feng, wanting to conserve his ability's energy, got his old kitchen cleaver from Shu Ninan. With one swing, he realized his mistake. The zombie's skull was just as hard as ever. His zombie killing couldn't compare to mine at all. In fact, being on the lifeboat made his movements rather clumsy. We had thought traveling by lifeboat would be full of danger, but it was the exact opposite. Not only was the zombies' combat strength reduced, but the hordes that usually traveled in packs had been scattered by the flood. One here and one there, it became difficult for them to regroup. Ha ha ha, this made things really convenient for our group. It felt like we were just picking up crystal cores. They took down one zombie after another with a single strike. But besides me, the others didn't overexert their abilities. They all killed for a while, rested, and then killed again. They took turns like this to avoid getting into a dangerous situation. One where everyone would be exhausted. Ji Feng killed about 10 or so zombies, and was just sitting down to rest when he saw my body fly up. I killed a zombie that was a little far away from them, pocketed its crystal core, and then flew back. My movements were clean and efficient. He wanted to ask me, "Don't you get tired?" But then he remembered something. I could absorb those crystal cores in just a single second. Is this what it's like to be a top player? I could cry. At that rate, you could eat braised pork every day. Everyone else needs to rest, but I don't. That's why wherever I go, zombies die. The way I took those crystal cores, as if they were free, made him drool with envy. Turn left up ahead, Ji Tiancheng said after sensing the area. There are a lot of zombies ahead. Hearing this, I asked excitedly. Before Ji Tiancheng could answer, I sent out my psychic energy. A look of delight instantly crossed my face. There really are a lot of them. Ji Tiancheng immediately asked sharply, "You can sense them? Didn't I tell you I can do a little bit of everything?" Ji Tiancheng felt that psychic abilities were different from other abilities, but he couldn't quite put his finger on how. I didn't wait for them to speak and immediately stated my intention. "I want to go there." "No," Ji Tiancheng objected with a frown. "That's the road to the hospital. If you're asking where the most people gathered in the apocalypse, it was undoubtedly the hospitals. Hospitals were already crowded, but before the apocalypse, there was a flu outbreak. So even more people went, and in many places, the healthcare system even collapsed at one point. So when the apocalypse hit, all the people who were trapped in the hospitals, basically anyone still there when the virus broke out, not a single one of them escaped. They all turned into zombies. So what? I know your power is impressive and that you absorb crystal cores quickly. But you'll be outnumbered." Ji Tiancheng didn't know how many zombies were at the hospital. But just the thought of it made his skin crawl. And that's not even mentioning the streets surrounding the hospital. There wouldn't be any shortage of zombies there either. It's very likely you'd be killed by other zombies before you even reach the hospital. Pei Yan asked from the side, "And what else?" "And I have a feeling the danger at the hospital isn't just because of the number of zombies. There must be something else, something more dangerous. I just can't sense what it is exactly." Ji Tiancheng's usually calm face was now serious and solemn. His intuition was telling him that place was extremely dangerous. At least with their current level of strength, going there would be certain death. I didn't answer right away. Instead, my body floated lightly into the air. "If you're not going, then I'll go by myself. It's not every day you find such a good opportunity to get stronger. Of course I'm not going to pass it up. Without power, you can't get anywhere in this world. That feeling of weakness and helplessness I had when I first got here. I don't want to feel that ever again." "Su Yanxi, don't be so stubborn," Pei Yan said with a slight frown. "I know you're skilled and fearless, but Jiancheng has a point. You'll be outnumbered, it's better to play it safe. Zombies are the one thing we're not short on in this apocalypse. So we won't have trouble finding more," I said, hovering in the air. I looked down at them. Thank you for taking care of me these past few days. But once I've made a decision, no one can change my mind. Dozens of crystal cores materialized and fell at Pei Yan's feet. This is a thank you gift. Even though the girl looked so frail. But at this moment, everyone seemed to feel my powerful confidence. And that casual glance, like a deity looking down upon a mortal. It wasn't disdain, nor was it mockery. It was like looking at flowers and trees, without any particular feeling. Just a light glance that swept past them. Su Yan, Pei Yan still wanted to persuade me, but I simply turned my back on them. I gave a casual wave behind me, my tone light. We'll meet again. My silhouette flew further and further away. Ji Feng grew a little anxious. Wait, Brother Pei, did Sister Ling really just leave like that? Aren't we going after her? I've only had her white rice and braised pork once. Of course, Pei Yan wanted to follow. But they were a team, so he looked at the others. What do you all think? Zhou Qingfeng glanced at Sha Weiliang. Sensing what she meant, he sat down in the lifeboat and said, We're not going. She has the power of flight. We, on the other hand, do not. Not to mention what Jiyu Tiancheng said. Besides the zombies, there are other dangers. Of course, there was something else Zhou Qingfeng left unsaid. If they really went, that girl wouldn't necessarily appreciate it. Her dark eyes were just too indifferent. He always felt a sense of being offended, as if in my eyes. He was no different than an ox, a bird, a blade of grass, or a weed. So if they ran into danger, I wouldn't necessarily step in to save them. Su Jinsei asked hurriedly. What about us? Although she was always overshadowed by me, for some reason, Su Jinsei didn't dislike me. The truth is, at her core, she's someone who's drawn to the strong. Before the apocalypse, Shu Ninan was exceptional in every way. He stood out among the other rich kids, and after the apocalypse, he awakened a rare spatial ability. She already had a favorable impression of Shu Ninan, and those feelings only deepened after the apocalypse. She had always thought she quite liked Shu Ninan, but now, she realized, she liked me more now. Because in her heart, I was stronger than Shu Ninan. Pei Yan didn't make an immediate decision. Instead, he asked the others, what do you all think? Even though he really wanted to go, it wasn't a decision he could make on his own. His friends had made him the team captain, so of course, he had to consider everyone's safety. Otherwise, he could never forgive himself if something went wrong. Sha Weiliang watched Pei Yan and his group nervously. Of course, she didn't want them to go. If they left, the powerful and relatively decent partners they had just found would be gone. What's more, Shu Ninan was still here. I think. Ji Feng, sitting in the lifeboat, quietly looked up at the others. Of course he wanted to go. We're talking braised pork and white rice here. Who could possibly turn that down? Who? But his rational side told him this was a matter concerning everyone's lives. A decision like this couldn't be made so carelessly, which left Ji Feng in a dilemma. He couldn't make a choice. Whatever you all decide, I'll go along with it. Being so indecisive, Ji Feng opted not to choose at all. With the decision passed to them, Shu Ninan wasn't nearly as conflicted as Ji Feng. She said directly, I'm against going over there. Tiancheng, what about you? Jiyu Tiancheng's brow furrowed slightly. In his heart, there was actually something very strange. Something he had never voiced. His psychic powers seemed to have no effect on me. He was now a level 2 psychic, and besides being able to sense safety and danger within a certain range, he could also sense the good or ill will humans and other psychics had towards him. For example, when Sha Weilang's group had approached earlier, he was able to sense that the group posed no major threat to him, and that they hadn't come with malicious intent. But me, he couldn't sense me at all. It was like a pool of stagnant water, or like empty air, as if I didn't exist at all. Just like right now, all he could perceive was that, if they went to the hospital, the result would be almost certain death. But I was clearly a variable in this, yet it was as if I wasn't there at all. This variable couldn't be calculated. I'm against it, too. Since it can't be calculated, it's uncontrollable. No one knew how things would ultimately turn out. Pei Yan then looked to Su Jinsei. Su Jinsei bit her lip, then lowered her head a bit stiffly. I'm abstaining. Her decision to abstain came as a surprise to the others. They had thought she would be firm in her opposition to finding me. After all, they all thought Su Jinsei must hate me. They never expected to be wrong. 2 people had voted no, and 2 people had abstained. Now, no matter what the last person, Pei Yan, chose, it wouldn't change the inevitable outcome. The man lowered his gaze slightly, his voice deep. Let's turn left, then. The lifeboat turned to the left, heading in the opposite direction of the hospital. The atmosphere grew silent. Ji Feng, completely tactlessly, asked, Brother Pei, are you okay? The others who abstained could be relaxed because they have nothing to do with me. But Brother Pei is my brother, even if we're not related by blood. After so many years together, you'd even grow attached to a dog. let alone a living, breathing person. I'm fine. No one spoke anymore. When they saw zombies, they killed them in silence. The good mood from before seemed to have vanished. Meanwhile, I had no idea. I didn't know that my departure had brought down Pei Yan and the other spirits. This moment, I was in an excellent mood. This was the main road to the hospital. There were a lot of cars. The heavy rain had caused the water levels to rise. All these cars were now soaking in the water, and many of them still had zombies trapped inside. Low-level zombies have no intelligence. Trapped by a door, they don't even know how to open it. When they sense a human presence, they just keep ramming the door with brute force. Attempting to knock it down, I was flying above them with ease. I didn't miss a single car. Whenever I saw a zombie inside, I'd help it by opening the door. Then, I'd deftly pick out the zombie's crystal core. As soon as a core was in my hand, I'd absorb it. As a result, the more zombies I killed, the stronger I became, with no sign of exhaustion. It was like I was a perpetual motion machine. This feels amazing. After clearing out more than half the road, I finished absorbing the crystal cores. My whole body is brimming with power, and I'm in a pretty good mood. They're just too weak. Not a single one of them can put up a fight. I was just a few meters from the main hospital entrance and could see the hospital parking lot in front of the gate from a distance. It was packed with zombies. My eyes lit up, just as I expected, lots of zombies. My hands couldn't help but move faster. Just then, I felt a light flashing around me. I frowned slightly and looked up toward the source of the light. It was coming from a residential building across from the hospital, from a window on about the 12th or 13th floor. 3 heads were huddled together there. One person was holding up a large whiteboard. On it was written SOS. Another person was using a flashlight. They kept shining it on me, trying to get my attention. The third one was waving at me desperately. To save them or not? That wasn't really a question. I glanced up at the people on the upper floor, and then ignored them, continuing to clear the zombies from the remaining few cars. The 3 people upstairs saw me glance at them, and then act as if I hadn't seen them. They got angry instantly. Damn it, stinking bitch. The middle-aged man with the flashlight cursed in frustration. He revealed a set of very yellow teeth. She saw us just now, right? But she pretended not to. She obviously doesn't want to save us. The haggard-looking woman who was holding the whiteboard lowered it. She glanced timidly at the middle-aged man. Old Wang, if she won't save us, what do we do? The middle-aged man was seething with anger. He raised his hand and slapped her across the face. What can we do? If she won't save us, then she can forget about leaving either. The other person was also a woman, but she was clearly much younger than the haggard woman, looking to be just over 20. Brother, are you thinking? Being called brother in that sweet, delicate voice put the middle-aged man in a much better mood. He pulled the woman into his arms. Go get the phone. That damn bitch has been clearing zombies all the way from the main road. She really thinks she's something special. I'll show her what a harsh lesson from reality looks like. The young woman gave the man a flirtatious look. Then she went into the room to get a phone. After the apocalypse, these electronic devices were basically useless, only good for passing the time. After 3 months, even a fully charged device would be dead. But this was the apocalypse. If yours ran out of power, weren't there other people's? The young woman brought the phone over and turned it on. Brother, this phone still has about 10% battery. It should be enough, and it won't go to waste. You're a smart one. The middle-aged man glanced at the woman with a lecherous smile. Later, you can help recharge your brother, and then we'll clear out the floor below us. The young woman smiled coyly and handed the phone to the middle-aged man. The man took it and opened the music app. After turning the volume to maximum, he played an incredibly loud, high-energy song. He threw it down toward me as I was clearing out the zombies. The phone's volume was turned all the way up. In this open area, filled only with the faint sound of rain and the roars of zombies. Abnormal variant zombies are extremely sensitive to sound. Some of the zombies were a bit farther away and hadn't noticed me. Now, hearing the sound, they all started sprinting wildly in my direction as the phone fell beside me with a thud. Seeing this, I swiftly finished off the last zombie in the car. I looked up at the opposite building again. That man seemed to be waiting for my reaction. When he saw me looking, he gave me a provocative smirk. As if he was afraid I wouldn't see it clearly, he thoughtfully gave me the middle finger. The sight of this, I just gave a faint smile. It's really been a long time since I've seen an idiot brave enough to mess with me. The reason that middle-aged man was so provocative was not only because I had left someone to die, but also because he had awakened a strength-based superpower. Of course, the more important reason was because underneath their building, there was a level 2 zombie. The man didn't know its exact location, but after clearing his way down floor by floor from the 33rd to the 12th, he grew too afraid to go any lower. This woman clearly has powers, and they're strong. If I came looking for him for revenge, then regardless of whether I could kill him or not, I would run into that level 2 zombie, and we would end up fighting each other to the death. It was an absolutely perfect plan, just as the middle-aged man was gloating over his own scheme. And feeling smug, in the very next second, the middle-aged man's smile froze on his face. I was hovering in the air. Zombies from all directions, drawn by the music just now, were frantically rushing toward me. I didn't move, just let myself fly a bit higher. Once I was sure the zombies couldn't reach me at this altitude. I looked over at the middle-aged man, who had lowered his hand and was still watching the show. I parted my thin lips. God says, "Bring the man before me, here." The next second, the middle-aged man's eyes filled with terror. He felt an unrelenting force taking control of him, making him stumble towards the window. Startled, he instinctively grabbed the woman beside him, but he discovered the force was immense, dragging both him and the woman with it. Seeing this, the haggard woman was stunned. She quickly grabbed the young woman with one hand, and the door of a nearby cabinet with the other, but it was no use. As she felt her body being pulled uncontrollably, the young woman tried to shake off old Wang's hand. But how could she possibly shake off someone with a strength superpower? The haggard woman, however, easily let go of the young woman's hand. Seeing the two of them fall toward the street, she couldn't help but feel a sliver of glee. After all, if that man stayed, he would only beat and curse her. And besides, it would probably be her turn to be fed to the zombies next. To see the man she shared a bed with die before her in this lifetime, the haggard woman couldn't help but reveal a smile. Her eyes, which had been as dull as stagnant water since the apocalypse began, now seemed to shine with a new light. She stared, wide-eyed, to see just how he was going to die. What's going on? The man had never imagined that a superpower that could control people from a distance even existed. He couldn't even begin to fathom it. That's why he had been so brazen in provoking me. He was sure I couldn't do anything to him. As the man screamed in terror, his body was slowly lowered to my side. Before he could even move, I sent the man flying with a kick. With that, the man and the woman he was desperately clinging to accelerated their fall into the water. As luck would have it, the two of them landed directly on a car floating in the water. The commotion immediately attracted the ones that had just been drawn over by the phone. The very zombies that had been trying to get me. The man didn't even have time to say a word. He quickly got to his feet and pulled out the steel knife he was carrying. He immediately killed the first zombie that approached. I stood on high ground, watching the man kill zombies with a grin. As soon as he killed one, its crystal core would automatically fly into my hand. Clearly, I intended, before this man died, to squeeze out his last bit of value. He had awakened a strength-based ability. In this apocalypse, fighting his way down from the 33rd floor to the 12th showed he had some skill. At the very least, his ability had already reached level 2. But faced with a growing horde of zombies, he was bound to run out of steam. As for the woman beside him, before the zombies even had a chance to bite the man, he kicked the woman far to the side. He didn't do it to save the woman, but to have her draw some of the zombies away. The tactic worked. After the woman was sent flying, some zombies immediately sensed the movement and pounced on her. The poor woman only managed a single scream, before being torn apart and eaten by 5 or 6 zombies. Bright red blood flowed into the filthy water. The strong stench of blood made all the zombies present howl with excitement, driving them all into a frenzy. The zombies swarmed toward the man. The man's hand, holding the steel knife, was trembling. As he was killing zombies, he sobbed hysterically, "I'm sorry, ancestor. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Please, I beg you, be merciful. Just act like I'm nothing and let me go." I sheathed my sword, and crossed my arms. "I have no such unfilial descendant as you. Please, save me. If you just spare my life, I'll do anything you want. Please." I didn't reply. As the man's strength gave out, combined with the sight of the endless horde of zombies, his shame turned to rage. "You damn," before he could finish his sentence, a flash from my sword cut through the air. The man's eyes widened, his steel knife dropped into the water, and his body fell backward. In the last moment of his life, he saw countless zombies lunging toward him. One body couldn't satisfy the zombies. Instead, it made their desire to feast on human flesh even stronger. But I was flying high above them. No matter how they leapt from below, they couldn't even touch me. On the contrary, I didn't even need my fingers, simply using my spiritual energy to command the sharp sword. Weaved back and forth through the zombie horde, and one after another, their bodies collapsed. It was like they were dropping loot in a game. Every time a zombie fell, a crystal core would fly to me. I didn't bother storing the cores. I just absorbed them the moment they reached my hand. It seems the commotion here was too great, as it quickly attracted other zombies. An especially loud and distinct sound pierced through the sound of the rain and reached my ears. I turned slightly, and saw a zombie actually leap out from the base of the building across the way. It obviously couldn't fly, yet with a single leap it reached a height of 3 meters. Not only did it jump high, it also leapt a great distance. This zombie was male, and its face was grotesque. Half of its face had been eaten away, and the rotting flesh there was crawling with maggots. They writhed in the putrid flesh and its grayish-white eyes, as a deep roar rumbled from its thick mouth. Waving its single remaining arm, it rushed towards me with a ferocious expression. I dodged swiftly, and the sword returned to my hand. Just as I was about to move forward, a headwind stirred up in the air before me. I quickly stepped aside to dodge, but the headwind mercilessly took out the zombie that was just beside me. A wind-type zombie. My eyes lit up. This zombie was clearly different from the others. So its crystal core must be different, right? The zombie seemed to sense my disdain. A fierce whirlwind instantly surrounded it. Within moments, the invisible wind formed into tangible wind arrows in the air that were slightly visible. The wind arrows were powerful and swift, and it could even control their direction. After I dodged the wind blades, they immediately changed direction to chase me, so I decided to stop playing cat and mouse with the zombie. I instantly flashed to the zombie's side. The zombie was fast, and quickly used its wind ability to dodge, but as fast as it was, I was faster. With a single strike, I flicked out a blue crystal core with the tip of my sword. I sensed the energy within the crystal core. As expected, it was about 10 times more powerful than the previous ones. Feeling quite pleased, I watched as the zombie's body was devoured by the others. I said softly, "You really picked the wrong person to mess with." After fighting for a while, although I wasn't tired, my stomach was already growling. I was about to put my sword away. When I saw that familiar light flashing again, I looked up, and there was that same haggard woman, holding up a whiteboard. The letters on it were no longer SOS. It read, "There are a lot of ready-made crystal cores here." Obviously, the woman knew I wasn't some kind of saint. A moral appeal wouldn't work on me. So, she could only try to appeal to my interests. She had gotten a clear look at me just now. Or rather, she knew that people with abilities like us love crystal cores. I glanced at the woman, and asked, "Are you a good cook?" Even though we were so far apart, the haggard woman felt as if I had whispered the question right in her ear. She nodded frantically. "Yes, I'm a very good cook. My father used to be a chef." My eyes lit up. At a time when the most powerful flying ability users were only level 2 and could only fly 5 or 6 meters high, I flew directly up to the 12th floor where the woman was. Seeing me defy the laws of Newton, and just hover in midair, the woman felt an immense shock to her system. But she didn't show it on her face. Instead, she said in a very fawning tone, "Sir, do you need me to help you in?" "No need." I flew straight in through the window. As I landed inside, I first took a look around the apartment. It was surprisingly clean. As if sensing my confusion, the woman explained on her own, "After the apocalypse, we started living on the 33rd floor and have been working our way down. So the apartments are still quite clean. I also make sure to tidy up." "Sir, my name is Lu Guishang. You can just call me Xiao Lu." I sat down on a clean wooden stool. "Those two from before, who are they to you?" "They were." Lu Guishang hesitated for a moment before answering. "That man was my husband. We used to live on the top floor. After the apocalypse began, he awakened his powers. A strength-based power. As for the other woman, she's a college student from the 20th floor. She was the only one in her family who wasn't infected by the virus. To survive, she submitted herself to my husband." "Oh, so I killed your husband. You don't hate me?" "Sir, why would I hate you? I couldn't wait for him to die." Lu Guixiang's eyes were filled with intense hatred. "He stole my family's huge business from me. The Lu family 14 was my father's life's work. It always had a great reputation, but after he passed away, I was too incompetent. I didn't have the ability to manage it. I only know how to cook. He took it from me, step by step." "That's enough," I interrupted her. I wasn't interested in Lu Shoping's love-hate drama with her husband. Of course, from what she was saying, what happened next was easy enough to guess. "Where are the crystal cores you mentioned?" "They're in the room. I'll go get them for you." Lu Shoping hurried into the room and came back out a moment later with a small cardboard box. There were quite a lot of crystal cores inside. At a rough glance, there were over 100 of them. These were all Wang Cheng's. He had powers, but he didn't know how to absorb these crystal cores. So he just kept collecting them, only finding out how last month. So he started absorbing crystal cores every day to get stronger. I heard him say he was a level 2 strength-based power user. However, I grabbed a handful of crystal cores from the box and began to absorb them. However, even as a level 2 power user, he didn't dare go downstairs. He said he sensed a very dangerous presence below, at least one level 2 or even a level 3 zombie. That's why we've been stuck on the 12th floor for days, too afraid to move down. Lu Shoping was genuinely afraid of Wang Cheng. a deep-seated fear from the bottom of her heart. So, to stay alive, she had to endure the humiliation. Now that a monster like that is dead, she can only say that heaven is just. A possible level 3 zombie? I immediately sent my mental power downwards to check. In the end, I was disappointed. There was a level 2 zombie. There was no level 3 zombie. But a level 2 will do. It's better than a regular zombie, anyway. I'm in no hurry to go kill it. Under Lu Guixiang's shocked gaze, in less than 2 minutes, I had absorbed all of the crystal cores. Lu Guixiang didn't have many supplies left. There were only a few open packages of crackers. I looked at the scattered pieces and scoffed in disgust. What can you cook, sir? At our Lu family 14, we can cook dishes from several major cuisines. But our specialty is home-style cooking. Our most famous dish is pickled fish. We're also good at making all kinds of seafood dishes. This is a coastal city, after all. There's an abundance of seafood, and we used to get a lot of tourists. So my father also developed some new seafood recipes, which ended up getting rave reviews from our customers. From the way you talk, your father seems to have been an amazing cook. I guess my skills are just a pale imitation of my dad's. At the mention of her father, Lu Guixiang's gaze darkened. It's a shame he died in a car accident. Otherwise, if dad were here, the Lu family's reputation would never have been ruined. I raised an eyebrow. Have you ever considered that your father's car crash might not have been an accident? Ma'am, what are you implying? The hint was enough for Lu Guixiang. Her usually muddled mind suddenly became clear. Her eyes instantly reddened. It was me. It was me. I'm the one who got dad killed. The poor woman didn't even know her father had been murdered. She had to be told by someone else. If she had known sooner, she would have taken that man down with her, even if it meant dying herself. I wasn't moved by Lu Guixiang's pain. I only care about my own business. If we want to eat seafood, where do we have to go? By the way, do you know how to make spicy crayfish? Lu Guixiang struggled to control her emotions, her voice thick with nasality as she answered. I do. I can make any dish my dad could. I'm just not as good as him. Besides, we don't have the spices or ingredients here. So, then let's just have a simple meal, and afterward, we'll go find supplies. My verbal manifestation ability could, of course, conjure up some spicy crayfish. But I want to eat the real thing. I'm not interested in something created by my ability. God said, let there be 4 cream buns before me. Lu Guixiang was just about to offer me her remaining crackers, when she saw this ma'am suddenly utter a bizarre sentence. And right after, 4 cream buns appeared before her eyes. What kind of power was this? She could create supplies out of thin air? Doesn't that mean she'll never starve? Go on, eat, rest for a bit after you're done. Then we'll go find supplies. Lu Guixiang was a bit puzzled. Can't this ma'am create her own supplies? Why does she still need to go out and find them? Of course, she could only wonder this to herself. She would never dare to ask. Lu Guixiang knew clearly that my current friendly demeanor was only because she still had value. The moment she had none, or if her cooking wasn't good enough, the other person would abandon her without a second thought. She hadn't forgotten that this person was not a good person. Cream buns, a food you wouldn't think twice about before the apocalypse, had now become a luxury. As Lu Guixiang ate the fragrant, soft bun, she once again felt how wonderful it was to be alive. After they finished eating, Lu Guixiang packed a bag. Inside, she put some sanitary pads, a change of clothes, and that half-eaten bag of crackers. She also put a bottle of water in it. Ma'am might not care about these things, but she couldn't afford to be so careless. Let's go. We'll clear this building first. Lu Guixiang timidly followed behind me. Before, when Wang Cheng was killing zombies, he would sometimes make her scout ahead. The terrifying appearance of the zombies had left her with severe trauma. She cautiously glanced at the ma'am in front of her. Seeing that I had no intention of making her scout ahead, Lu Guixiang let out a huge sigh of relief. The zombies on the 12th floor had all been cleared by Wang Cheng, so I went straight to the fire escape. Planning to go downstairs, I pushed open the fire door, which had a warning sign on it. A creaking sound rang out in the hallway where only the sound of breathing could be heard. It was jarringly loud. Lu Guixiang's heart was pounding wildly. She clutched the hem of her clothes with both hands, staring fixedly down the stairwell. If this woman couldn't win, she would turn back immediately. She would rather starve to death than be bitten by a zombie and become one of the walking dead. Just then, she saw a sword suddenly materialize in the hand of the woman in front of her. Lu Guixiang was startled by its sharp, cold glint, but she didn't cry out. Since the apocalypse began, she had learned to control herself well. She kept herself from screaming. Sure enough, the sound of the door opening had attracted the zombies downstairs. It was as if a switch had been flipped, as the numerous zombies began to rasp agitatedly in unison. It was like the howling of a wolf pack in the mountains. Thump, thump, thump. Some of the zombies, missing arms or legs, were already stumbling their way up the stairs. I didn't stop, I continued on down the stairs. Upon seeing the zombies, I sent the sword flying, controlling it with my spiritual power. In no time, the 2 zombies coming upstairs were killed, and their crystal cores flew into my hand. But the sword remained hovering in mid-air. Lu Guixiang watched this unfold. She was once again shocked to her core. In the short time since she'd met me, she'd already lost count of how many times I had shocked her. But a realization had already dawned on her. This woman was powerful, exceptionally powerful. If she could always stay by her side, her safety would be absolutely guaranteed. More importantly, this powerful person was a woman. In the apocalypse, even though Lu Guixiang hadn't been outside to see the world, just within this one building, she had already witnessed moral decay. The absence of humanity. If a woman had no value of her own, then she was merely property, or to be more precise, a plaything. Just like that college girl, who was constantly using her body to please Wang Cheng. Wang Cheng was old enough to be her father, all just to stay alive. She even forced herself to call him brother. Lu Guixiang had no intention of looking down on the college student. The girl wanted to survive, and she wasn't hurting anyone else. She was only hurting herself, so others had no right to judge. Down on the 11th floor, I led Lu Guixiang straight into the corridor. This floor had 2 apartments, facing each other across the landing. We could hear what sounded like zombies in both apartments, constantly ramming their bodies against the doors. The doors were shaking violently, looking like they could burst open at any second. I walked up to one of the doors and slashed it right down the middle. The thick iron door actually split apart. The zombies inside, aided by my action, burst the door open. It seemed to be a family of 3. You could clearly see a pair of parents and a boy of about 10. All 3 of their bodies were relatively intact, with no signs of bite marks. It's likely that when the virus first broke out, their immune systems all failed to fight it off. They all turned into zombies together. I didn't feel particularly emotional about it. After finishing off the family of 3, I entered the apartment. There were no more zombies inside. Also, because the family had turned right at the start of the apocalypse, the apartment was actually still well stocked with supplies. While I was sizing up the place, Lu Guixiang had already found some bags. Gather the supplies that are still edible, my lord. What should we do with all this rice and flour? Lu Guixiang hadn't eaten rice in a very long time. We can't cook them without water or fire, but she couldn't bear to throw them away. Even without knowing the situation outside, I knew one thing. Things like rice and flour are definitely scarce supplies. I said casually, you gather the supplies and put them in the living room. I'll deal with them in a bit. As I spoke, I started to wander around the house. I seemed to have ended up in the child's room. It was a bit of a mess. It was covered in dust and had a faint smell of rot. But my eyes were immediately drawn to a snack basket on the study desk. I went over right away. There were quite a lot of snacks inside. From the original owner's memories, I recognized the names of these snacks. This one is a spicy strip. It's delicious. This one is a fruit jelly. This is called a rice crisp. And these are nuts. This is called crunchy noodles. Wow, there's quite a variety. I just hooked the basket onto my arm, opened a pack of spicy strips, and started eating. The moment it entered my mouth, a spicy and savory flavor exploded on my tongue. This spiciness really packs a punch. I rarely eat spicy food. I can't really handle the heat, but I still couldn't bring myself to spit it out. The people of this era are amazing. How did they manage to create something so delicious? I didn't find anything else to eat in the other rooms. However, I did. In the master bedroom, I found a locked box. After I opened it, I discovered it was full of jewelry and gold. My excitement immediately deflated. TCH. And here I thought there was something good hidden inside. I stood up, with no intention of taking any of the gold or jewelry. My lord, Lu Guixiang, who had just walked in, was about to ask something when she saw the safe full of gold bars and jewels. Oh my god, so many gold bars. Lu Shouping's family wasn't poor, but she felt they probably weren't as wealthy as this family. Besides, as a Chinese person, no one can resist gold. What is it? I rummaged through the closet again. It was all just clothes. Just then, my eyes suddenly lit up. I spotted some clothes that still had their tags on. Dresses. I've never worn anything like that. The clothes Shen Niansheng and the others gave me before were all practical things like jeans and casual pants. Lu Shouping reluctantly tore her gaze away from the gold. My lord, I've gathered all the edible supplies. The seafood, vegetables, and other things in the fridge have all gone bad. They're no longer edible. I pointed to a row of clothes that still had tags on them and said, pick out all the clothes that still have their tags. Alright, Lu Guixiang was quick and efficient. She gathered the clothes. There weren't many with their tags still on. She sorted them out quickly. Everything was piled up in the living room. I have to say, this family actually had quite a lot of supplies. There was vacuum-packed rice, 2 5-kilogram bags of it, and also some regular rice they used daily. Lu Guixiang packed that into another clean plastic bag. Besides the rice, there was an open bag of flour with about 5 or 6 pounds left. Then there was half a box of rice noodles and a case of milk. Bagged noodles, a pack of instant noodles with 2 large bags inside, and a small bundle of sweet potato noodles. A bag of vermicelli, a barrel of oil, and various bottles and jars of seasoning. I took a glance, set aside a dress, and then asked, "You didn't take the gold?" I could have sworn I just saw it. When Lu Guixiang saw that gold, her eyes were practically glowing. At that moment, Lu Guixiang just waved her empty hand. The things in the living room vanished into thin air. Hearing my question, she stammered in reply, "The gold is very heavy. I can't carry it." "Well, I can't carry it right now. But for you, ma'am, it should just be a wave of your hand." I wasn't originally going to bother. But then I remembered I wanted to try Lu Guixiang's cooking later, so for once, I was considerate. "If you want to take that gold, I'll help you get it." Lu Guixiang thought for a moment, and decided to go get it. It wasn't that she wanted it for herself. Rather, she felt that I didn't seem to have much concept of money or wealth. It was the apocalypse now. Money was useless. Gold and jewels, on the other hand, might become the new hard currency. Ma'am might have a use for it later. Thinking this, Lu Guixiang didn't realize that her mindset had already shifted from simply latching onto a powerful person to wholeheartedly serving my best interests. It was probably my mysterious and unfathomable abilities that were subconsciously winning her over. After she brought the gold out, Lu Guixiang discovered that I had already changed out of my all-black sportswear and into a white dress. It didn't have any excessive decorations, just some small, exquisite design details. It looked simple and elegant. Further down, I wore a pair of beautiful silver high heels. The heels were very high, about 7 or 8 centimeters. "Ma'am," I glanced over, "is this all of it?" Seeing her nod blankly, I waved my hand. The gold vanished right before her eyes. "Let's go." I took the lead and walked ahead. Lu Guixiang watched cautiously from behind, seeing that even though I was wearing such high heels, I still walked very steadily. She breathed a sigh of relief. "Ma'am truly is ma'am, even wearing shoes this high. She walks faster and more steadily than me." After that, Lu Shoping's jaw was constantly on the floor. We cleared our way down, floor by floor. No matter how many zombies there were, wherever that sword passed, no zombie was left alive. Even that Wang Cheng on the 8th floor, the level 2 zombie she had been so afraid of, barely lasted 3 seconds against my sword. As for the other zombies, they were naturally finished in a single second. Lu Shoping went from trembling and hunched over to standing tall with her head held high. When she saw those stinking, hideously terrifying zombies now, she felt she wasn't so scared anymore. As expected, as long as you have power. Hey, as long as you're following someone powerful, someone strong enough, even the most terrifying things are no match for you. We didn't see a single living person all the way to the 1st floor. However, according to Lu Shoping, there used to be people here, but because there was a very powerful zombie on the 8th floor, no one dared to go down. When they ran out of supplies, they just went up. In the end, most of these people basically became Wang Cheng's pawns. Arriving downstairs, I used the power of my words to conjure a lifeboat. There weren't many zombies in the residential complex. I took care of them along the way. I haven't even entered the hospital yet. What I gained from this one building has already restored my power by about 10%. I'm glad I didn't stick with Pei Lian and his group. They just go wherever there are fewer zombies. They mostly stick to the suburbs and small towns, roads with fewer people and even fewer zombies. They'd never come to a place like the downtown area. At the rate they were going, when would I ever have recovered this 10% of my strength? I steered the lifeboat toward the hospital across the water. I'm about to head into that hospital. Are you coming with me, or are you going to wait out here? I've pretty much cleared out all the zombies around here. Lu Guixiang won't be in any danger waiting outside. If she does run into a zombie, she can just run towards the hospital. After all, I'll be fighting my way in from the entrance. "My lord, I'll follow you," Lu Guixiang quickly replied. Afraid I was going to abandon her. Just as I thought, the hospital was crawling with zombies. The moment Lu Guixiang and I set foot inside, it was like a switch had been flipped. They all lunged at us. But because of the resistance from the water, their movements were clumsy. As I commanded my sword to slay the zombies, I caught Lu Guixiang looking at me with admiration and worship. "You give it a try," I spoke. "Let there be a light steel blade that can slay zombies." The next second, a steel blade appeared from thin air and was held out in front of Lu Guixiang. "My lord, this is the apocalypse. It's better to rely on yourself than on others. I'm not going to protect you for the rest of your life. He said, quite cruelly. The zombies in this hospital were hideous. The outbreak here was more severe, it was all biting incidents. On top of that, because they'd been soaking in the water for days. Their entire bodies were bloated and swollen, like a bunch of waterlogged corpses. Lu Guisheng took the steel blade, fighting back the urge to vomit as she stood up. In front of her was a zombie that had slipped past me. It had no upper or lower lips, revealing teeth stained a mix of red and green. Half of its nose was gone, and its left eye, a grayish-white orb without a pupil, was caked over with a thick, bloody paste. White maggots wriggled all over it. Thanks to apocalyptic mutations, these maggots were much bigger than the ones from before. They gnawed at the entrails and the surrounding rotten flesh, swimming around in the minced flesh. The rotten stench was like eggs that had been rotting for ages, acrid and nauseating. Even after all this time in the apocalypse, Lu Guisheng still couldn't stand the smell. She'd always had to force the feeling down. Now, as the zombie got closer, that stench shot straight up to her brain. She could barely move. Just then, a calm voice came from beside her. Aim for the center of its head and split it open like a watermelon. If you don't have enough strength, just chop its head clean off. Split it? Right down the middle? Lu Guisheng couldn't help but exclaim. She gripped the steel blade tightly with both hands and sliced it straight down the middle of the zombie's face. She put all her strength into that strike and actually managed to split the zombie's head in two. It revealed the crystal core inside. Lu Guisheng's eyes lit up. Ignoring the strange feeling that she just killed a person, she reached out and snatched the crystal core. With a splash, the zombie's body fell into the water. Lu Guisheng stared at the beautiful crystal core in her hand. Her eyes red with excitement. She wiped the crystal core clean on her clothes. He reverently handed it to me. For you, my lord. I don't need it. I glanced at the crystal core in disgust. It wasn't wiped clean, and in fact, got even dirtier after being wiped on his filthy clothes. My lord, in this post-apocalyptic world, crystal cores are more valuable than gold. Just keep it for yourself. Lu Shoping's eyes turned red again. So my lord is such a good person. How could he have ever thought she wasn't a good person before? I'm just not good with words. And I just happen to despise evil with a passion. A sharp tongue but a soft heart. Receiving a look of gratitude from the person before me, I was utterly baffled. I don't really understand the thoughts of these mortals. With me clearing the path ahead, I would occasionally let one or two especially gruesome-looking zombies through for Lu Guisheng to kill. And Lu Guisheng went from gagging instinctively at first, to being able to face these hideous zombies head-on, wielding his steel knife with clean, decisive movements. Splitting the zombies' heads in two as if he were slicing a watermelon. He was originally trained as a chef, after all, so he had more than enough strength. Plus, that steel knife of his was extremely sharp. The combination was greater than the sum of its parts. He slowly became more and more adept at taking care of the zombies. In this massive hospital, there were 4 level 2 zombies. That number seemed a bit low considering how much foot traffic this place used to get. But it was better than nothing. I took care of them with a flick of my wrist. There are many buildings in this hospital. Even as fast as I am, I couldn't clear them all in a single day. After clearing out 3 buildings, the sky began to darken. The zombies at night are significantly stronger than the ones during the day. Although it makes no difference to me, killing for a whole day has gotten rather dull. My lord, it's about to get dark. Let's head back across the way and find an apartment to stay in. That residential complex is a high-end complex built in recent years. Overall, the community isn't very large. There are only 10 buildings in total. Aside from the one Lu Guisheng lives in, I haven't gone to clear out the other buildings. I have to admit, there are a ton of zombies in a bustling downtown area like this. My power has now recovered by 10%, so I wasn't in such a hurry to clear out zombies anymore. I took Lu Shoping on the lifeboat and we returned to the complex across the way. I found a suite on the 4th floor for us to stay in. Lu Shoping thought about the food supplies he'd gathered today, and asked, "My lord, what are we eating tonight? You can just boil some eggs for yourself. I'll have some snacks." In that snack basket Waluo found earlier, it was full again, even after I'd eaten a lot from it. "Follow me to the kitchen." Lu Guisheng followed me into the kitchen. He watched as I gave a wave of my hand, and the gas stove lit up, while 2 eggs and a bottle of water appeared in the empty pot. "You can boil the eggs yourself, right?" No problem." I carried the basket over to the dining table. Looking at the basket overflowing with snacks, I started rummaging through it. I'll start with this spicy one. It smells pretty good. Through the glass door of the kitchen, Lu Guisheng watched the slender young girl in the white dress. A warm feeling spread through his heart. Eggs were such a common food in normal times. He hadn't eaten one in a very long time. After the simple boiled eggs were done cooking, the flame went out on its own. Lu Guixiang brought the eggs out to the dining table. "My lord, are we going back to the hospital to kill zombies tomorrow?" With my help today, he had killed 5 zombies. I got 5 crystal cores. It's not a lot, but this is a huge step for me into this post-apocalyptic world. I'm not going out again. My strength has recovered quite a bit, and I can't be bothered to go out of my way to kill zombies anymore. You mentioned before that you're good at cooking seafood. I'm craving some seafood. Where can we get some? We'd have to go to Y City for that. Y City, if I remember correctly, it's the capital of South Province. It's not in the same direction as East City or G City. I'd have to turn back. Y City has a big tourism industry, and it's right on the coast. It has several ports, so there's plenty of seafood. I just don't know if the seafood has mutated, Lu Shoping thought. He suddenly remembered hearing that when Wang Cheng was clearing out the building, a resident on the 20th floor had a teddy poodle. That poodle was tiny before the apocalypse, but afterward, it actually grew to the size of a normal golden retriever. But aside from getting bigger, there was no mention of the poodle developing any special abilities. Seafood should be the same, right? Crayfish would just become big lobsters. As for that dog, in the apocalypse, it had no way to protect itself. So it could only end up as food for someone else. That couple on the 20th floor was agonizing over it. Their doggy son that they had no food for was eventually butchered by Wang Cheng. They've mutated. I heard Pei Yan talk about this before. I said, taking a bite of my instant noodles and chewing as I spoke. I think the South Province base is in Y City. I heard that the creatures from the sea have started coming ashore to hunt humans. Lu Shoping's face turned pale. That's right, he was only thinking about how the food sources he knew would get bigger. What about the creatures in the sea that were already carnivores? Like sharks and whales, they were scary enough to see on a normal day. After the apocalypse, Lu Shoping couldn't imagine how huge they would become. After all, even a poodle could mutate to the size of a golden retriever. But so what? No one can stop me from eating what I want to eat. The boast was delivered so casually, as if it carried no weight, but Lu Guixiang could feel the power and confidence behind it. I glanced up at her for a moment. After I finished my instant noodles, I was in a pretty good mood as I picked out my next snack from the basket. I must have seemed so childish, but only Lu Guixiang knew just how powerful I really was. That's right, even if creatures like sharks and whales from the ocean all came ashore to hunt humans, so what? In front of her master, it would just be a matter of 1 second or 3.